Bitcoin has currently dropped about 15% since its all-time highs were set just 5 days ago, leading many to ask the question, is it all over? As GBTC outflows yesterday were absolutely very big, are the Moon Boys about to get completely gigabanged even more? Or is the bottom near? Over the past 24 hours, absolutely the Moon Boys have gotten banged. But the big question is, are they about to get gigabanged? Or in fact, is the bottom actually a little bit closer than most people realize? So if you understand, literally the only way to become a crypto millionaire is to get gigabanged every once in a while. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, get signed up to BINGX or BINGX below if you want to buy Bitcoin or altcoins. And without any further ado, let's absolutely take a sneak peek, a squeak peek even, at the charts. Where if we look at Bitcoin on the weekly chart, clearly we have initiated a little bit of a dump episode. If we look on the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin as well, we do seem to be trading pretty tightly within this falling channel here. We've basically been in this channel since the 14th, which is literally the top of the market at this point, the all-time high, about 73,000 US dollars. We've had multiple touches within this channel, okay, multiple times. And just most recently, as we got down to the bottom of this channel, we did have a little bit of a bounce somewhere around the 66,000 US dollar level is a potential next target for rejection if we do not break this. But I want to actually talk about where I think Bitcoin is going to be going in the short term, how low we could go, where the best entries could be, and if I think this dump is over or if the dump absolutely has more dumping to do. So first of all, one of the first big things is that we're seeing Grayscale outflows. Yesterday, about 643 million outflows from GBTC, from Grayscale, which was the single biggest individual ETF outflow in about 15 years. Do you guys understand this? I'm not talking about, we're not talking about the biggest Bitcoin outflow or anything like that. We're literally the biggest single individual ETF, any ETF, in the last 15 years. So basically, Bitcoin absolutely can take a few bangs, right? It can take a few punches. It basically just got the biggest gigabang of the last 15 years, and we're still above $60,000. Now, that's pretty impressive, right? What other asset, what other ETF do you know that can get gigabanged that hard, and the chart still looks like this? The chart still looks like this, right? That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. Not anything can take a banging like that. We also see that the net flows in the Bitcoin ETFs, this is the chart that tracks basically since the ETFs were created. And you can see, let me actually just get rid of my camera here. You can see this was our first red day since March 1st. You can see that right here. So that's because of these GBTC outflows, which, guys, you have to understand, these GBTC outflows cannot exist forever. For example, about 50% of Grayscale, of GBTC's Bitcoin under management, has bled out. The selling will stop and price will resume going up eventually. He says new all-time highs next week. Hey, maybe. The market does move really fast and nobody can predict exactly where we'll be in a week because a lot can change in a week, especially in the crypto markets where it trades 24/7. But at the end of the day, eventually GBTC, if this trend continues, they will not have any Bitcoin left. And I believe that also led the Barry Silbert, I believe he's the CEO of Grayscale, right? That led him to come out with an announcement a few hours ago basically saying they're going to be cutting their fees. Is he panicking that too many Bitcoin are leaving, right? Is that what's going on? Well, there is a lot leaving for sure. But this to me, if you would summarize, this is just something that makes, I've been kind of saying this for a while, but it just makes so much sense that I think it's worth just showing this. It's a very simple chart. Bitcoin on Twitter or on X just saying, is this the same pattern? It certainly looks familiar. We'll find out soon if Bitcoin experiences another leg down. Then this pattern will be confirmed, right? I think there is very likely a chance that we actually have another leg down. And actually, if we look at this chart, this looks remarkably similar to this pattern here. Basically, if Bitcoin did what this is showing, then basically This is kind of what we'd be able to expect over the next couple of days. Something like that, maybe. Will we go all the way down to below 60K? Hey, I've been saying since last week, late last week, I think that's absolutely possible. Now, I want to talk about something here because as I said a couple days ago, I made a video, I think it was Thursday and Friday. I was basically saying I want to see Bitcoin get pushed as low as it can because one, that's healthy to reset the momentum. Two, get fresh entries, especially on some of these altcoins that have now gotten banged up a little bit more, where Bitcoin's down like 5% or so today. Some of these alts are down 7, 8, 9%, and some even more. Actually, no, for the most part, a lot of these alts are, only down 6, 7, 8%. So not like insanely much more down than Bitcoin, actually relatively close to how much Bitcoin is down. But looking at Bitcoin on the daily chart, obviously we talked about the bearish divergence, which has played out. It's still continuing. The bearish cross on the MACD, we're still seeing this momentum continue. Once we see a strong bounce, once we see some of those momentum start to reverse, then I would be able to say that this bleeding is over. But guys, in my opinion, at the time of recording this video, I don't think we've seen that sign yet. I still think we have some downside in the short term. Literally, while saying that, if we fast forward to next week, technically we could be at all-time highs by next week. I'm not saying that we're entering a very long-term downtrend. But in the short term, I think we have not gotten any signals yet to say, hey, this downtrend is over. For example, I think that one of the biggest levels of support for Bitcoin would actually be right around this $58,000 level where there's the most accumulated volume on the chart to the downside, the closest amount. There's a fair amount of, there's not a ton of support on this chart until we get down to about 58,000. 58,000 as well is exactly where the 50-day moving average is pretty much. I mean, right now it's about 56.5, but over the next few days, it'll be, slowly inching up there. Maybe we'll get a wick down there. Ultimately, I would feel extremely comfortable if over the next couple of days, or even in a flash crashy, or if from right now, that would be another about 12% dump overall from the top, about 20-25% to the downside. Once we get to about a 25% pullback from the top, anywhere between 25 to 30%, at that point, I would be extremely confident to say, okay, then it's very realistic now that might be a bottom. And I just simply don't see that yet. I don't see anything on these charts on the short term that are screaming, okay, we're about to start going up. As I said, when we were at 70K, I think we were about to start, I think we're about to start a dumpy downtrend. And we're now about $6,000 pretty much below that. And I'm telling you now, I still think that we have more room to the downside. I think that alts still have some room where they can move to the downside. Obviously, they will if Bitcoin moves to the downside. There is not a world that exists that if Bitcoin would dump down to 56,000, altcoins would pump. No, they would also get dumped on, most likely multiples higher than Bitcoin, and that's not a bad thing. That's exactly where you could get fresh entries and really start to get geared up for what I believe will be an amazing, very extremely giga-bullish cycle here. We are seeing, are we seeing people? Are we seeing bears call Bitcoin a scam again, saying, good luck with everything, you made a mistake, Bitcoin's going back to, we're entering another multi-year bear market? Of course we are. Just like clockwork, we're seeing these people get confident again because Bitcoin has initiated a couple percent pullback after going up like 200% or something, right? Just absolutely exploding big time. A pullback is natural, healthy. And looking at this chart for Bitcoin, there's massive support below us, but I don't think at this time we are there. I think we could easily go lower here. Even if we look at, on the weekly chart, looking at the RSI, MACD, I just think that we haven't seen any real signals that, hey, bottom is in yet. And I think that's why the market for the past couple of days has slowly been bleeding more and more. Usually, bottoms are marked by rapid acceleration in price, meaning we start to see price massively accelerate, most likely the downside when we're trying to form a bottom. And something like this, honestly, this is a really good example on the 4-hour chart. Bitcoin was at like 69,000. Nice. Massive dump in just a couple of hours, right? Extremely big from 69, nice, to 59. And then we started moving to the upside big time. This was a really nice candle that helped people to want to continue to speculate on it being bullish. Whereas what we're seeing right now is just basically a slow bleed. If we look at the daily chart for Bitcoin, I want to find another example of something like this, where, for example, after the Bitcoin ETF failure, the failure of Bitcoin ETF back in the middle of January, where it went up to about 49,000, and then over the next couple of weeks dropped all the way down to about 39,000. Well, one of the reasons this was marked as a good bottom was, well, we fell below the 21, 50, and 100-day moving average. We held, and we had one of those massive candles right here I'm talking about, this exact kind right here. We traded on it for like 4 to 5 days, and then we had a giga bounce above it on like the 5th day, going from about 39,000 to 42,000. And then over the next few days, we held. We didn't get rejected immediately, which is good. And then we were able to break back above the 21 and day moving average and trade there, hold there for multiple days. So that was a really good indication. And then once we were able to do that, Bitcoin price started exploding. And then we got some more follow through with actually a bullish cross then. After getting the bearish cross, we got this bullish cross, which then enabled Bitcoin to trade, again, hold its gains, again, bounce off the 21 day, and then continue. So we have to see something similar, in my opinion, before a bottom is really cemented and before speculators will really step in and start becoming more bullish on Bitcoin. And right now, I think a really good target that I think will scare a lot of people, a really good target is below 60K in a wick. We could have a daily close at 60 or a little above 60, but say we crash all the way down to 56, 57,000 US dollars, and then a couple hours later, we're back above 60, 61,000. And at which point I would think if we had a move like that, and we look at all the indicators, everything like that, everything lines up, I would say, hey, this is just as good of a bottom indicator as anything, but we haven't seen that yet. So that's why I'm saying I don't necessarily think that this dump episode is over, and I don't think we should want it to be over. We don't want it to be a premature dump episode. The bigger this dumps, the harder it dumps, the more of this momentum we can reset, the higher we can go. So, sometimes you have to take a little bit before you can really pump a little bit. And get signed up to ThemeX and BINGX below if you want to buy Bitcoin or altcoins. Without any further ado.